Folks, welcome to the West Coast regional event of the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. My name's Dan Other, and it's my pleasure to serve as the executive director of the Academy and to be the master of ceremony for tonight's event. As I begin the presentation, what I'd like to do is thank our patrons. The patrons of the Academy provide financial support. It is essential to the operation of the Academy. It is essential to the health and success of the professions of environmental engineering and science. And so thank you to the patrons of the Academy for your financial support. Without your support, we couldn't bring these kinds of programs to you at the prices that we bring them. And so thank you to our patrons. Tonight's agenda, we've got some items that we're going to go through. We're recording. We're going to pause after this and take a group photo, but I'm going to introduce Vice President Wendy Wirt, who will then open and introduce our speakers, Adel and Robert. And then I'm going to come back in and demonstrate an exercise that we're going to do using the breakout rooms function of Zoom. So this is not going to be a talking heads. This is going to be an interaction. So we'll have some break the ice with Adel and Robert, but then we're going to have some discussion and opportunity to engage. And I'll come back and ask people to share what they've learned from that engagement, and I will explain a second breakout room exercise. And then folks will go into those breakout rooms and do some sharing, and we'll come back in and share as a large group. So just so everybody's on the same page, you're going to have opportunities to talk. It is not just about you.
Is it noisy if I put this bin on?
No. All right. I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm going to ask folks if you would please.
How long does that
turn
last?
on your camera.
Probably an hour.
Let's see who we've got. Turn on your camera and we will take a picture. I know Wendy likes to do them. I know I like to do them. Give me a second. Wendy, you gonna do a countdown, or you want me to do
If I
the
have
countdown?
my hamburger
Go ahead.
before.
Wendy, you good for me to do it?
You
All
can
right. I will do it. All right, folks, smile at the camera. We're gonna count down. We're gonna take a picture in 3, 2, 1, smile. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. All right. At this time, I will turn over to Wendy Wirt, the president-elect of our American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists, to introduce tonight's opening speakers. Wendy.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan, and thank you all for being here this evening. This evening, we're going to reflect on our past, and we're going to look forward to our future as our profession continues to work towards a world free of environmental challenges. We're going to do this by having regional leaders share their stories of growing, connecting, and diversifying our profession. Briefly, the Academy was founded in 1955 for the principal purpose of serving the public by elevating the standards of our profession. Our founders recognized early a need for a network of experts to help address increasingly complex environmental challenges. So let's hear from our experts. You'll notice that both Robert and Adel have several letters behind their names. Does everyone here know what they stand for? Yes, definitely a lot of work. The answers are in their introductions. So let's go ahead and get started. Our second speaker, whom I'm going to introduce first, Robert Ferrante, is the Chief Engineer and General Manager for the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. In this capacity, he reports directly to our Board of Directors, which are comprised of the mayors of the 78 cities located within our service area, and the chair of the Board of Supervisors for the unincorporated areas. In his position, he oversees all the departments and activities of the district's operations. He's worked for the districts for about 30 years in various roles, including wastewater operations, solid waste management, renewable energy, and air quality. Robert is a board-certified environmental engineer, and there you have it. Tonight, both Robert and Adel will discuss how the environmental profession is changing with a greater emphasis on sustainability and the need for engineers and scientists to develop new skills. Our first speaker, Adel Hagekhalil, is the General Manager and Chief Executive Officer of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Adel has over 34 years of public service experience in the management of water, environmental, and infrastructure programs. Adel is an award-winning transformational leader anchored in integration, innovation, and inclusion. He's a registered civil engineer in the state of California and a national board certified environmental engineer with a specialty in water. Adel was appointed in June of 2021 as the general manager of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, the nation's largest drinking water provider. Adel's responsible for leading Metropolitan's daily long-term operations and future planning, providing safe and reliable water for 19 million people in 6 Southern California counties, spanning over 5,200 square mile service area with an annual budget of $1.8 billion, about 1,700 employees, 30 facilities. Wow, Adel, you can go ahead and take over.
Wendy, I'm taking you with me to the next show. So great to be with you. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. It's great to be with the Academy. I feel honored to be with you and to support the great cause of the Academy of forwarding the environmental engineering industry forward. And I'm honored to be with my friend Rob Ferrante and the team here. Dan, thank you very much, and Wendy. So great to be, and I want to just maybe do a couple of minutes of sharing. You know, I'll start with why I'm in water. And somebody asked me on a podcast not long ago, is what got you into water? And honestly, I never thought about it. I never thought about what got me into the environmental arena. What do I do and why? But it's amazing that when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor, a surgeon, and I wanted to save lives, and that's something I wanted to do. And when I was in high school, I decided to switch and go to engineering because I wanted to help my family and make some money early. I didn't want to waste 10 years of my life and not being able to provide. But I went to civil engineering and became a water resources engineer and got into engineering. And what I realized of looking forward and looking backwards, it actually got into the job of saving lives. Well, exactly what I wanted to do, different path. And I think that's really what environmental engineering is all about, is about actually making people's lives better, uplifting communities, saving lives. Because if we don't do our job, it's people's lives at risk. People can lose their lives if the water is not clean, if the wastewater is not treated, if the air quality is not done, if the solid waste is not picked up. A lot of us know what the value of that to the communities and what we have, and to the ocean, the environment, and the people we serve. So all my life, I really wanted to help, and I actually took every opportunity to not say no, to get involved at the association levels, but also no matter what got thrown at me, I took that as an opportunity to do work. I got involved in wastewater treatment, wastewater collection, stormwater capture, low impact development, looking at developing and putting wetlands in place in communities in South LA. And I saw what it means to improve the quality of life in communities. I saw what the impact of sewer overflows to communities in East LA and South LA back in 1998 during El Nino. I was involved in settling the largest collection system settlement agreement to invest over $2 billion in renewable infrastructure and building the infrastructure we need to protect the communities we serve. And then we actually implemented programs to put something back, like wetlands and green infrastructure and projects to help communities. And as I'm moving forward, I spent 3 years before I joined Metropolitan. Mayor Garcetti and Mayor of LA asked me to take on Streets LA, the streets department, but he asked me to bring in a culture of climate adaptation, equity, integration, and I did that. I did that by really building pavements, bioswales, and many of the things that we need to do to integrate into what we need to be doing to, provide equity to community, uplift communities. And really our job is not just building infrastructure, it's building communities, protecting communities, and creating jobs, creating an environment. And everything I've touched in my life was made me better. And I would say to everyone is get engaged, don't be shy to try something new. Engineers are known for like avoiding trying something new, but we need to be diverse. I mean, communication is so critical. We have to know how to communicate with our community, the public, the stakeholders, the policymakers. We need to be able to build consensus and have people build agreements of moving forward. I did that when I did One Water LA plan in 2040. I brought people together. When we did the Proposition O and getting a vote of the people, over 68% approval, we did Measure W for stormwater capture taxation in LA County. We were able to do that. And that was only done because we're able to create consensus and communicate and tell the story and engage people and listen to them. They're also being diverse and looking at multi-benefits. Multi-benefits is the future of what we need to do. We can't do one trick pony. We have to think about how can we provide shade, shelter for people, bioswales, for example, right at streets. But in our community, how can we do climate adaptation? How can we climate action? How can we reduce our carbon footprint? How we can serve more? How we can address affordability? All these things are so exciting and so great, but it's all about, at the end of the day, how we can uplift communities and collaborate. Collaboration is a skill that's so critical. And I'm blessed as an engineer to be able to have, I think we have the most skills in collaboration. Sometimes we're a little stubborn, but we're okay. But I think we have great collaboration. Robert and I are working together on the largest recycled water project in the country. And we all are together working in a collaboration. The success is our success, the community's success. We just signed the largest project labor agreement in the country to invest in creating jobs with our labor partners. And I just found out recently that one job that we just did had 95% local hires. We just hired the first at-risk individual. It's a veteran on a job. And it's all that you start adding in, you are really making a difference. So I'll share with you and close on one note. When my daughter, who's 26 right now, was 7 years old, I used to be the grease avenger. I don't know how many people know. I did the grease control program in LA in 2002, and one of the conditions, somebody drew me as a superhero, as a grease avenger, superhero standing over the sewer, and I was decided to put the costume on, right? And I was there for a while. It was a fun process and fun engagement. I was able to walk the talk. But during the time, my daughter didn't know what I do for a living. So finally, she asked me. She was 7 years old. Said, "Dad, what do you do for a living?" And I looked at her. I said, "What do I do?" And she saw the superhero guy, And I said, I clean the water so we can go swimming. And she looked at me in her eyes and said, "Thank you, Dad." And that word for me means a lot. And I think it's not just our daughters, our kids, it's the community that we touch and care for. So our industry is about caring, about saving lives and engaging people. So I'll leave you with 3 I's that we just started with Wendy, is the integration, innovation, and inclusion. And I see those are the anchors for our industry and how we move forward. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Adel, for sharing your story. I think it's time for me to share my story, a little bit about me. My beginning is a little different than Adel's. I come from a family of aerospace engineers, and when I went to school, I planned on being an aerospace engineer, but I ended up taking some combustion thermodynamics classes that I found very interesting, and I got hooked on looking at air pollution, from kind of starting with looking at engines and the emissions from those. And ultimately, I got a master's in environmental engineering. I have an undergrad in mechanical engineering. And I was very fortunate. When I came out of school, there weren't a lot of job offers waiting, but one of them was from the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts, and I was able to work in their air permitting section. And, you know, the LA County Sanitation Districts, we of course do wastewater management, solid waste management, but for the longest time, and maybe even it continues to this day, we have the most air quality permits in the South Coast region. And it shows you a little bit of the kind of the cross-media impacts of what we do and what environmental engineers do. Very fortunate, similar to Adel, to have worked in different areas, wastewater operations, power generation for renewable gas, solid waste management, materials recovery facilities, and on up. And likewise, like as Adel was saying, it's very satisfying, obviously, to work on these issues because you are improving people's lives. But I think I want to touch and segue and touch on something a little bit about maybe what we'll be talking today about the changing environmental engineering approach. I think if you look to last century, especially the beginning of last century, I think you'll see, of course, a lot of development with oil and fossil fuels that allowed us to build big freeways, automobiles, and big cities. We also saw big, especially here in Southern California, aqueduct systems built, the LA Aqueduct, the state project, and of course the Colorado River. And all of those projects done by engineers allowed, especially Southern California, to grow, to develop, to improve technology, to improve quality of life to a certain degree. And I think as environmental engineers now, we are recognizing that a lot of those technologies, a lot of those systems either came at an environmental cost, especially fossil fuel combustion, or cannot be relied on reliably into the future, like the importation of water, the Colorado River and the state project water. So I think whereas last century we built a great deal of infrastructure to allow us to grow, I think this century is really looking at environmental engineers to allow us to live sustainably, to take the systems we have, modify them as necessary. As Adel said, looking at water's too precious in California to use just once and discharge out to the ocean, looking at recycling that water, looking at renewable energy, looking at electrical vehicles. And I think that's going to be our challenge, that this century is really going to be the environmental engineer century, to look towards building systems that don't just work for the next 10, 20 years, that are sustainable. We've heard the term, the circular economy. We need to think of nothing being a waste and converting waste into resources. That's actually our mission statement in a small phrase for the sanitation districts. Nothing gets wasted, and we try and make productive use of everything we get. So, I mean, that's kind of how I see things changing from when even I started my career to now, that there is a tremendous emphasis on sustainability and creating systems that will be sustainable. And the last bit too that I think Adel touched on too is in building these systems, keeping a focus in on everybody. And this is where the environmental justice really comes in, that we can't leave any groups of people behind. We need to lift up everybody that is around and to create these healthy, vibrant communities moving forward.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Adel. We really appreciate you guys getting us rolling with this. It's something to have to be, on the spot, but thank you so much, Adele and Robert, for getting this started. We really appreciate it. I'm going to actually call on Wendy. I'm going to put her on the spot, and we're going to actually demonstrate what this next exercise is going to be. So everybody's going to be dropped down into a breakout room where you're paired up with something. And I know most people like to spend their time talking about themselves, and that's fun too, but it's also good to be able to listen. And so one of the things we're going to do is an exercise where we listen about what the other person's saying. And then when we come back together after the breakout rooms, what I'm going to ask you to do is to tell me what you heard about the other person, so that we're doing active listening. So imagine Wendy and I are dropped into a breakout room and I say, "Hi, Wendy, my name's Dan Other. Tell me a little bit about yourself."
And I say, "Hi, Dan, I'm Wendy. Nice to meet you. I'm an environmental engineer with the sanitation districts of Los Angeles County. I started out in a rural community in Pennsylvania, and in the community that I grew up in, not everybody even gets a high school education. In fact, we very much believe in child labor. Thus, some of the stories we were talking about earlier about being able to mechanically work on tractors and on other farm equipment growing up. So when I finally got to college, I wasn't sure of what engineers were. I hadn't ever seen them in our community. We had ministers and we had veterinarians and doctors, but definitely had an interest in math and science. And then at the school that I went to, I ended up running across Deborah Reinhardt, who was a former president of the Academy. She was our Dean of Engineering, and she really influenced me, seeing someone in such a leadership role and as a mentor and as a friend. Very early on, she invited me to be part of a student design competition. So that was back in 1986, and we designed a reuse system for the city of Sunrise, and I still have it on this floppy disk. So the technology may be old, but the idea, as we saw from both Adele and Robert, that the collaboration and the partnership is new. And so through the Academy, I've been able to go from 1986 as a student design to gather skills and to move forward, and to now be able to be part of a collaboration on such a monumental water recycling program. So it does take time. So that's a little bit, very quickly, my story.
Wendy, it's great to get to know you. Thank you for sharing a little bit. And then what's going to happen is that we're going to all end up back in this room together where we're all looking at each other, and I'm going to call on somebody and I'm going to say, tell me about the person you just met. And so, colleagues, I'd like to introduce you to Wendy Work. Wendy grew up in Pennsylvania, and when she went to college, she wasn't quite sure what this thing was to be there and to be an engineer and to be an environmental engineer, because the background she came from didn't have a whole lot of somebody being an environmental engineer. And in college, she got excited about environmental engineering. She met an important mentor that had a big influence on her life. And Wendy's been on this fantastic trajectory where she has learned how important environmental engineering and science can be to people's health, safety, and welfare. And Wendy is very proud of the track record and work that she has done up to this point and is excited about the things she's working on now. So all of you, please welcome Wendy to our event this evening. Wendy, we're glad to have you here. Well, welcome back, folks. Welcome back. I hope you had some good time. I know it's brief to get to know somebody. It's kind of like speed dating. So I'm going to introduce Dave Ferguson, who I was with. So Dave's been an Academy member for a little. Dave, I'm going to embarrass you by since I can do this, I can spotlight you for everybody. So here's Dave Ferguson. So Dave can wave. Dave is actually a two-time winner of grand prizes from the Academy's Excellence in Environmental Engineering and Science competition. In 1993, he won the Research Grand Prize for an ozone project. In 2015, He won the sustainability grand prize for AVAC, which is a water banking system. And so Dave has been a board certified environmental engineer since back in the day when it was also known as the diplomate, now board certified environmental engineer. And one of the things that he enjoyed doing was having served as an oral examiner for doing the oral exam. So Dave enjoyed that process. So I'm going to say, so let's see here. Let me pick on somebody with an opportunity. Felicia. So we'll throw you up here into the spotlight for everyone. So Felicia, who do you want me to pull up here that you're going to introduce?
Simon.
So who was that one with?
Simon.
Simon. All right, let me see. Oh, here we go. Okay, let me add a spotlight. All right, so here you go. Felicia, you can introduce Simon to all of us.
Hi, everyone. This is Simon. Simon hails from England, where he was born and moved around with his family extensively until he eventually came to Santa Monica, I believe, when he was about 10 with his parents. And he was very inspired by marine biology while he was going through school, like doing projects off the Santa Monica Bay. Over time, he became more entrepreneurialish and even opened his own sushi restaurant on the Santa Barbara campus. But then he decided to go into, luckily for all of us, he decided to go into environmental consulting and has been working internationally for 10 years. He loves to travel, and he's just really expanded his knowledge of the world and environmental stuff by traveling and working.
Fantastic. Felicia, thank you so much, Simon. It's nice to all meet you. So Mike
Hopefully I got
Selma.
that right.
Yeah, Mike Selna, we're putting you on the spot. Who did you want to introduce to all of us?
I had the pleasure of talking with Victor.
Victor. Okay, fantastic. Let me bring him up. All right, Mike, can you introduce Victor to all of us, please?
Victor is at the point of his career that I'm terribly envious of. He's just starting out. He's still in school, and he's becoming, I guess, excited, for lack of a better word, about environmental engineering. He is an intern at LA County Sanitation Districts. He actually works in Wendy's group in public information. What an important group that is today, when more than ever, we need the public to understand what's going on in the world, climate change, et cetera, and the role of environmental engineers. So Victor is at that point where many of us have been, where he's on the excitement curve, I would say. He goes to Cal State LA. He really values the network of connections that he's forming through the academy. I think, Victor, you're a student member, if I caught that correctly, of the academy, maybe. Anyway, he's making connections through the academy and developing his career in environmental engineering. Sounds really exciting, Victor.
Thank you, Mike. Victor, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's wonderful. Now, everybody, you are going to know much more about Victor tomorrow when he takes over social media for the Academy. So that'll be quite interesting. Let me see. Preeti, let me put you on the spot here. So let me spotlight you for everyone. Who did you meet?
I met Robert, who is my general manager, but why don't you call on Robert?
I was going to say, that's kind of cheating. That's kind of makes it too easy. So Robert, why don't you introduce Preeti for us?
Yeah, so as you heard, Preeti is with the LA County Sanitation Districts. The interesting fact is, I started working in air quality, and when she came in, she replaced me when I transferred out. So we've known each other. We haven't really worked together, but she's been with the districts now for 27 years. But the interesting thing about Preeti, everybody's got a beginning story. She comes from a long line of civil engineers. And she was born in all places, Anchorage, Alaska, because her father was working on the Alaska pipeline up there. I did not.
Back here.
And that obviously the ability to
Come back here.
on big projects has always been of interest to her, and that's why she's enjoyed working at the districts. She's really looking forward to potentially working on direct potable reuse programs in our future here. The state of California develops regulations, and she is also very, very involved with ASCE, Civil Engineering Society. She's on one of their committees for the chair of the committee, right, Preeti, for looking at development, professional development at ASCE.
Wonderful. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Preeti, it's very nice to make your acquaintance. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate that. I hope people enjoyed this exercise. We obviously aren't going to necessarily be able to get through everybody, but what we're going to do next is kind of expand this slightly differently. So we're going to now get into slightly larger rooms. I'm just going to bring up for you the slides that you have an idea of what it is you're trying to do, right? So we did that kind of think, pair, share where we were with one other person, but now we're going to actually get into groups. It actually looks like I got it like in groups of 4 each. And let's kind of each when we're sharing with each other, and we'll stay in there for more like, 10, 12 minutes, right? A little bit longer period of time. But let's talk about what we see as challenges, opportunities, and skills. Let's think about the profession of environmental engineering and science. And let's think about, start to brainstorm. What do we see as some of the challenges? What do we see as some of the opportunities? And what do we see as some of the skills? And this is an opportunity for the 3 or 4 folks that are in the room to share a little bit about what they see, challenges, opportunities, and skills, and just chat some among yourselves. And when we bring you back to the large room, I'll call on some random people and I'll say, hey, tell us a little bit about what you heard in your group, right? Remember, this is us sharing, but this is us also actively listening. So I will open up this next set of rooms. Everybody knows your task, right? Can you tell? I'm the professor type, right? So everybody knows their task when they go to their room. It's not just fun time. It's those opportunities. It's those challenges. It's those skills. So here's your rooms open, and you're going to have some opportunity to be in there about 12 minutes or so. Fantastic. Fantastic. Welcome back. Welcome back. Fantastic, everybody. All right. Well, let me ask Jordan. Jordan Riley. Jordan, we're not going to put you on the spot at all, but I might kind of put you on the spot. It's okay. Here we go. So you can be, we'll spotlight you, but I'll be there with you. You don't have to feel like you're the only one there with the spotlights. Okay. All right. So Jordan, what did your group talk about?
We talked, firstly, we talked to focus on DEI and trying to figure out how that's a kind of more of a thing we need to focus on as we move forward with climate and kind of a changing environment. How can we include everyone along the way with this transition? Because it's going to be a vast transition overall. Thinking about multiple backgrounds and kind of thinking about how our policy can be more forward thinking and inclusive. That was a big point of contention for everyone to think about. One thing that Robert said was diversity leads to better solutions. I think that's, super true. I mean, that's how we're going to get through this big changing time and environment. Let's see. Opportunities. I mean, there's a lot of investment going on right now, and with kind of the bipartisan Infrastructure Act and IRA kind of coming through. And just kind of, I think a big point was just making sure we make an alliance with, not just one industry, but multiple industries. That way we can have a coalition that's more effective rather than the infighting that we're seeing right now politically. So let's see, skills. One point that Robert also made was kind of how can we use AI in the future to kind of solve more problems and kind of smart solutions rather than just waiting for things to happen, but having infrastructure that is responsive. And then another really important skill that I think is becoming more apparent now with the youth is just listening and using empathy. And that's kind of a skill in itself. So that was kind of the main things we touched on in our group. So
Thanks, Jordan. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thanks for sharing.
sure.
Sounds like you had a great conversation there. So
Mhm.
thanks for joining us here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's see, who else can we pick on? How about Maher? I know you were in another group. I had taken some notes here about people that were in different groups. So I'll come up here. We won't just put you in the spotlight just there by yourself. I'll be there. So what'd you guys talk about?
Yeah, our group consisted of Adel, Sharon, and Felicia, and we covered a diverse group of topics. We spoke about climate change as one main challenge facing, not just municipalities, but industries. We spoke about emergent chemicals, PFAS, PFOAs, and this type of contaminants, as well as planning and designing infrastructure. Whether it's drinking water or wastewater treatment and solid waste treatment or solid waste management, fulfilling current needs and designing to the future. So we have infrastructure in place to accommodate, population growth, climate change, and so on.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, everybody, I know it would be great to get lots more conversation going, but the idea around these events was to kind of keep it to about this hour so that we get some opportunities to meet some people. We'll follow up and share the names of folks that were here with the folks that were here so that you kind of have an opportunity to be able to reach out and make contact with people. Before I wrap up, if anybody had anything urgent that they're like, hey, this was like something that I got to share with this whole group because this was the golden nugget that we've got to get out there to the larger group. Please, by all means, I want to give space so that folks can step forward if there's an urgent. Well, wonderful all. I really appreciate people being here tonight. I'm going to say thanks to everybody. We got a bunch of smiling faces here at the end. One of the things that we do at the end of these events is we always include a few details so that folks know as we're wrapping up for the event. So thank you for attending our event today, our networking fair out on the Pacific Coast. Are you looking for future webinars? You go to the Academy webpage with events. For those of you that are looking for future webinars, we've got an intern fair on August 2nd. We have a webinar about the spill in East Palestine, Ohio on August 16th. We have an Academy Summit coming up on October 12th. That's going to look at environmental engineering and science in the community context. So there's all kinds of fantastic programs coming up. Please take a peek at our events and sign up. If you're not yet a member of the Academy, please do reach out to the Academy Director of Marketing, Marissa Waterman. Her email is mwaterman@aaees.org. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to Marissa, reach out to myself, any of us on the staff or folks with the officers or trustees. We're always here and happy to help. Thanks everybody for being with us this evening. This was a fantastic West Coast networking event. We wish you all a pleasant remainder of your evening, and we look forward to hosting you at a next Academy event. Thank you all.
Thanks.